Welcome to the Victims of Miseducation podcast. We here with another one, y'all. We here with another one. Another miseducation. What they don't want to tell you. All right. What the ancients knew that they don't want to tell you. All right. The heart-brain connection. All right. We're diving right into this one. All right. When you're thinking, right, especially in our modern times right now, when you're thinking of intelligence, thoughts, the mind, we're thinking about the brain, brainstorming, right? That the most intellect is coming from the brain. All right, and we're going to deep dive into this. And we're going to see that the ancients, in all ancient civilizations, even the Bible, teaches that it's the heart that's the center of all emotions and thoughts. All right, meaning the center, all right, the driving force. All right. Modern scientists have been coming across certain phenomenons that's bringing this topic right back and making them question, why did they ever question the ancients? All right, we're going to go through a bunch of information, but we're going to keep it short. But we're going to keep it thorough. And I'm going to present to you information that will make you rethink certain phrases as being heartbroken. All right. Your mind. All right. Thinking from your heart and not your mind, your brain. All right. When you're thinking of the heart and all the phrases associated with it, they're usually looked at as symbolic. All right, especially in our today's time. When you're using it, it's symbolic. Oh, you broke my heart, right? My heart is aching. You've been on my heart all day, right? Nobody is using that. Now, if they're to take an exam in university and answer a question, all right, they're going to use the brain. That's my point. All right. So we're going to deep dive into this. And first, we're going to bring up the thoughts that is making this arise again in our times, modern times. All right. So we're going to get it all for you today. All right, so the first one, we have a video here, and it's an individual who got a heart transplant. So we're going to take a look at heart transplant recipients. I'm going to show you a phenomenon that's been happening concerning heart transplant recipients and what they've been experiencing. All right, now they've been going to the same people that gave them these surgeries and to people in these fields to get questions. All right, and this is one of the scenarios here.
Respect and sympathy. Now, that being said, I have a very interesting question, actually, that a lot of my fellow transplantees experience. After my transplant, there's a lot of things in my habits that changed. I was a hunter, I turned vegan. I started having lemons after my surgery cravings. I had a craving for a cigar, which I don't really like cigars. I didn't like cigars. A lot of things that in my personality changed. Now I'm wondering, does this have to do with the cellular memory that we've been reading about, or can it be the trauma, or can you shed some light on this?
Yeah, absolutely, Joe.
All right. So just to take you back through. So he said that he was a hunter and now he's vegan. All right. He didn't like sour things and now he's eating lemons. He never liked smoking cigars and now he's smoking cigars. All right, so let's bring it
After
back.
my surgery cravings, I had a craving for a cigar, which I don't really like cigars. I started having lemons after my surgery craving.
All right.
I was a hunter. I turned vegan.
He was a hunter and he turned vegan. All right, so these are the experiences they're telling you. All right, he was a hunter and he was a vegan. All right, now he turned a vegan. All right, he was loving the thrill of killing and slaughtering and eating animal and its flesh. Now he has a different love for it and is doing something he never thought of before, right? And he's asking this scientist, right, this neurosurgeon and neuroscientist, if he has the answers.
I started having lemons after my surgery cravings. I had a craving for a cigar, which I don't really like cigars. I didn't like cigars. A lot of things that and my personality changed. Now I'm wondering, does this have to do with the cellular memory that we've been reading about, or can it be the trauma, or can you shed some light on this?
All right, so he wants to know, what is it? Is it the trauma? Is it the cellular memory? What is it, Doc? Please let me know, neuroscientist.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. This is a very interesting topic, actually, and this has been a great topic of discussion and debate, especially in contemporary medicine and in different journals. So I am a neuroscientist. I'm a neurosurgeon. So
All right, so once again, he's a neuroscientist. He's a neurosurgeon.
Look at this from a neuroscientist perspective, and there are certain things that I don't quite understand. And
all right, so he's a neuroscientist and a neurosurgeon. And when he's looking this from his perspective, in his field's perspective, he's like, there are things he doesn't understand. Because once again, in their field, they've explained that all thoughts, emotions, centers in the mind, in the brain, where they believe the mind is centered at.
And reading up on it sort of opens up a lot of questions that arise today. So tradition.
All right, so once again, this is what we're talking about. The questions arising today. This is opening up a lot of questions rising today. All right, and his experiences is minute compared to what we're going to go through and see other individuals who's received heart plants, what they've been through.
Traditionally, we thought about memory as being something that is primarily contained within the brain, and also there's another level of memory that's within.
All right, so they've told you that they've thought of memory, thoughts, only being primarily in the brain. That's what they've studied and came to the conclusion in our modern times. Right? While some of the world's greatest civilizations, right, who still has standing things, night wonders of the world, part of that. These people with all that intellect and all those smarts back then, they never came to these conclusions, all right? And they would want you to believe that we're smarter now than then, when they still cannot explain a plethora of the things that are on the hieroglyphs, things mentioned in the Bible. We've yet to even discover the vast amounts of what's in the ocean to say that we know everything. They don't know dreams and how they function. So there's a lot about the human body, right, and ourselves that's still undiscovered, especially the soul.
Your immune system, basically. You know, remembering certain diseases and pathogens, which is why vaccination works. You know, you expose your body to a certain disease in a small amount, and then your body becomes immune to it. So when the disease comes back, to try to infect your body has a memory of that disease.
Okay.
All right, so they show you that your body already has some memory inside of there in terms of diseases, germs, pathogens, that when they come to your immune system, it registers it, all right, like the military would, to come against that opponent again the next time it meets it, all right, with better armor and better defense and better weaponry.
But as far as
All right, but just to even touch on the vaccine part, that they're putting other things and slipping other things in there, fillers, right, that when those get in your bloodstream, all right, the base metals, the toxins, all right, mRNA, right, things that would switch up your DNA codes. They're not speaking on that. We're not talking about the, all right, we know our body takes in that memory of that battle and prepares for war the next time, right? But it has nothing to do with those fillers that you're slipping in with the vaccine to shoot it in, all right?
pragmatic memory, or day-to-day memory, if you will, like remembering certain things or objects or a certain smell or a certain food, you know, traditionally we thought that this had its core or its center somewhere in the brain.
All right, so thought, smelling, all right, food, all these things traditionally where? Traditionally in modern science, they're thinking of these things. Because ancient world science says different, including biblical science. If you don't like biblical, we can go Egyptology. All the ancients believe the same thing.
We know that new memories are formed in a part of the brain called the hippocampus. So the hippocampus is, if I show you the brain here, it's at the base of the brain in what's called the temporal lobe. So this is the temporal lobe over here, and this is the hippocampus. And actually, a lot of memory research has taken place at the Montreal Neurologic Institute with Dr.
All right, so they're doing a lot of this research in Montreal, Canada, all right, at the Neurologic Center.
Penfield, or Dr. Wilder Penfield, was a very famous neurosurgeon from Montreal. But, so this is essentially where new memories form.
All right, so they're telling you or that's what they believe, new memories form in the hippocampus, right, which is in the brain.
As they get stored in your brain, they will get stored in different parts of your brain. And
all right, and this is their explanation, and we're going to get into all of this. All right, so I just wanted to show that real quick in terms of that individual's first experience. All right, we're now going to go into a study now that had 47 individuals. All right, and this was broadcasted a year ago. All right, so this was done a year ago. All right, May 20th, 2024. All right, well, a year and a half, some months.
Okay, so you may have heard about this next topic anecdotally, but now there's a new study. This is wild. Organ transplant recipients are saying that they ended up with a lot more than just a new heart or a new kidney.
So this is coming from new research at the University of Colorado School of Medicine, and they interviewed patients here. The vast majority of these patients say that they inherited at least some of the personality traits from their donor. So they looked at 47 participants because you may have heard this, that this happens, and anecdotally people will share these stories, but when they interviewed these 47 recipients, they found 89% got some sort of change.
All right, so when they interviewed and examined these 47 individuals, 89% came back with changes. And we're talking about heart transplant recipients that reported changes in their behavior, their thoughts, all of that, once they receive somebody else's heart. Keep this in mind.
change.
That's
89%.
So you're talking everything from mood shifts to all of a sudden you have different food preferences. Maybe you've got a different level of physical activity. Maybe you couldn't play the piano before, and all of a sudden you can play the piano. Things like that,
Yeah,
which is wild.
Like I've heard that after like strokes or like whenever you have something with your brain
Similar
that,
concept.
that changes, but like just a transplant. I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah, we say it doesn't matter the type, like
Right.
it's a heart or
Kidney.
a liver or. Scientists, though,
Something with your brain
Similar
that
concept.
changes.
You can play the piano before, and all of a sudden you can play the piano.
So even playing the piano before, and all of a sudden they could play the piano. All right, talents being passed down as well. So we're talking about memory stored to even talents and abilities being passed down to a recipient from the heart they've received from another individual.
Things like that,
Yeah,
which is
that's-
wild.
Like I've heard that after like strokes or like whenever you have something with your brain
Similar
that,
concept.
that changes, but like just a transplant. I'm fascinated by this.
yeah, we say it doesn't matter the type, like
Right.
it's a heart or
Kidney.
a liver or. Scientists, though, say there's no good scientific explanation for this.
All right, so they want to say there's no good scientific explanation because modern science, all right, is not corroborating with ancient knowledge. And when these phenomenons come back up and arise, they just brush it off and they become news articles and spectacles and phenomena and myths, but no seriousness in the traction of reneging statements. All right, scientists in the field, neuroscientists, neurosurgeons are bringing it up, but will they admit?
Like, it's not, maybe there's some sort of cellular memory in the organ, but what they say is like it really shouldn't
Right.
transfer differences in your personality or things like that.
The one thing that I could see making a difference is your change of taste. Maybe that somehow could be connected, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
know how to explain it or thread that needle. But that one is at least the one that I was like, okay, I can possibly see that.
Yeah.
There were two crazy stories that they talked about where the person received a new transplant. One was a police officer who died, right?
All right, so a police officer, he's telling you about a crazy story. A police officer who dies, all right, becomes a donor.
So it was at the heart. They got the transplant recipient got a new heart. And they started noticing that weeks later they started having nightmares.
Yeah.
All right, so weeks later, they started having nightmares with this heart.
And all of a sudden almost having like this white light flashing experience, like the moment that they felt that the police officer died when they
Yeah.
shot him.
All right, so they could have felt the moment that police officer died when they were shot. They could have felt that stored up in the heart.
Wow.
And the other one was like like a kid.
A little kid.
A little kid, and all of a sudden the kid has Power Rangers, likes playing with Power Rangers. All of a sudden the kid doesn't want to play with Power Rangers anymore after the transplant, and that's because the child who died had an accident while playing with Power Rangers and fell off and fell off a windowsill. So all of a sudden the new child doesn't even want to play with toys that the old kid wanted to play with, which is just
It's kind of wild.
wild.
It's really fascinating. Yeah.
If you think about it, and I think that obviously I'm not studying this. I'm not.
All right, so just giving you that right there. They're telling you that this child who didn't like Power Rangers, all right, fell out the window, all right, another innocent child, right, not paying attention to this, right, receives this heart, and now they had loved Power Rangers before, now they hate Power Rangers, all right? And we're bringing this child in the scenario because it's innocent and it's not comprehending these things that surround the scenario. All right, so the first thing we're going to show you here all right, that I'm going to show you an abstract All right, so this is from the National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information. All right, says brain beats heart, a cross-cultural reflection. All right, it says from the ancient Book of the Dead, or the doctrine of the Greek philosopher Aristotle, ancient secular and religious cultures throughout the world often considered the heart and not the brain to be the home of emotions, cognition, and even the soul. Brandt and Huppert reflect on the reasons behind this belief. All right, it says in contemporary language and culture, we sometimes refer to people as good-hearted, warm-hearted, or heart of heart. In much of the non-medical community, the heart has long been considered the home of emotions, a tradition that can be seen, for example, in the aphorisms of the great classical poets, such as William Shakespeare in 1606, in Macbeth. Right? False face must hide what false heart doeth know. Or Johann Wolfgang von Goethe in 1786 in the Iphigenia in Taurus. The gods speak to us only through our hearts. For contemporary brain scientists and neurologists, however, this attribution of cognitive and emotional capacities, which are undeniably brain functions, to the heart is baffling. All right, so they're showing you this is how the ancients wrote and spoke about the heart. All right. It says in this essay, we argued that the widespread assignment of emotional and cognitive functions to the heart in the ancient secular and religious cultures throughout the world can most likely be explained by the absence of concept of brain function in those early times. Ancient examples of the heart being ascribed functions it does not in fact have can be found in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the doctrine of the Greek philosopher Aristotle, and in some aspects of traditional Chinese medicine. In medieval Europe, extraordinary religious rituals emerged, such as the separate burial of the heart and the body, or the Catholic devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Overcoming the transcultural historical belief that the home of the soul is the heart rather than the brain led us to the metaphor brain beats heart. For it is the brain which houses cognition and emotions and controls the frequency and rhythm of the heartbeat. All right, so they're trying to they're showing you how they transitioned over this to show you that the brain beats the heart. All right, but each ancient, all right, they're showing you a next picture here. All right, this ancient Egypt papyrus weighing of the heart of Ani. So they had the weighing of the heart. Everything was about the heart. The ancient Egyptians threw away the brain. All right, so they threw away the brain. All right, so continuing. All right, we'll get you the next article. All right, in the same thing here, all right, National Library of Medicine, it says Beyond the Pump, a narrative study exploring the memory. It says the field of organ transplantation, particularly heart transplantation, has brought to light interesting phenomena challenging traditional understandings of memory, identity, and consciousness. Studies indicate that the heart transplant recipients may exhibit preferences, emotions, memories resembling those of the donors, suggesting a form of memory storage within the transplanted organ. Mechanisms proposed for this memory transfer include cellular memory, epigenetic modifications, and energetic interactions. Moreover, the heart's intricate neural network, often referred to as the heart brain, communicates bidirectionally with the brain and other organs, supporting the concept of heart-brain connection and its role in memory and personality. Additionally, observations from the hemispherectomy procedures highlight the brain's remarkable plasticity and functional preservation beyond expectations, further underscoring the complex interplay between the brain, body, and identity. However, ethical and philosophical questions regarding the implications of these findings, including the definition of death and the nature of personal identity, remain unsolved. Further, interdisciplinary research is needed to unravel the intricacies of memory transfer, neuroplasticity, and organ integration, offering insights into both organ transplantation and broader aspects of neuroscience and human identity. Understanding these complexities holds promise for enhancing patient care in organ transplantation and deepens our understanding of fundamental aspects of human experience and existence. All right, so they're showing you, all right, that in this field of transplantation, particularly heart transplantation, has brought to light interesting phenomena, challenging traditional understandings of memory. All right, so these are being written all into the books, that there's phenomenons happen that challenge how they have written about the brain in our modern times and what they have taught in the schools in our modern times. All right. It has brought to light interesting phenomena, challenging traditional understandings of memory, identity, and consciousness. It's challenging the traditional thought. And these aren't traditional, these are new. The traditional thoughts agree with the phenomenons. And that's what I'm here to bring. All right, so studies indicate the heart transplant recipients may exhibit preferences, emotions, memories resembling those of the donors. All right, preferences, emotions, memories resembling those of the donors. Suggestion of form of memory storage within the transplanted organ. Memory storage in the transplanted organ. Memory storage in the transplanted organ. Mechanisms proposed for this memory transfer include cellular memory, epigenetic modifications, and energetic interactions. So they're telling you memory storage. All right. They exhibit preferences, emotions, memories resembling those of the donor, suggesting a form of memory storage within the transplanted organ. And they say these are phenomena challenging the traditional thought. Just showed you the traditional thought thinks otherwise. All right, so we're going to continue. All right, so we go to this next video. I'm going to show you this incident here.
On GMA, we like a good medical story. We're also partial to love stories. Rarely, though, can we combine the two.
At the center of this one is a 17-year-old who learned he needed a new heart.
All right, so this is a love story. We're starting with the 17-year-old that at that time learned he needed a new heart.
Could never imagine what else he would get along with that.
All right, so he got a new heart. And he got something else with that heart. And we're going to get into this, all right?
Saving gift. Eric Johnson of our Seattle affiliate Como has the story.
She likes to put her head to his chest and listen to his heartbeat.
Oh yeah. Steady.
Aaron knows what he knows, that this heartbeat can never be taken for granted because it has made possible a very special kind of love.
All right, so she's putting her head on his chest because it's a special type of heartbeat that she's connected to. We're going to get into what is the story talking about? What's happening here?
I never thought I could be so much in love with another person.
I didn't have any words to describe it. It was just this, connection.
At 17, Connor Rabinowitz had been a star catcher being recruited by Division I schools. His life changed in 2005 when they told him he needed a new heart.
All right, so in 2005, they told him he needed a new heart. All right, he was D1, he was playing in the league, playing baseball, he was an athlete. All right, he needs a heart transplant. Sad story.
If he didn't get one, he would die. Kellen Roberts was a Seattle kid, very alive, generous to a fault. A free spirit, whimsical and spontaneous, he drove his red truck all over the country, lived life on his terms.
He traveled all over the world. He traveled the United States. He jammed in as much as he could. And you know what? It left a much.
All right, now they're talking about the recipient. The donor now. All right. So we have the recipient and we have this donor as well.
Better legacy for us.
March 7th, 2005, on a trip to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Kellen hit his head in a freak accident.
All right, so Kellen hits his head in a freak accident, which ends up making him become a donor, as he was a heart, he was a body part donor.
Died there, far from home, but not far from Minneapolis. He was an organ donor.
Scared. I was going to go drive to the hospital and they were going to cut me open and take out my heart.
The transplant was a success. The engine of life had passed from one man to another.
I just wish he could know how grateful I am for him.
Connor needed to know about Kellen.
I was so grateful, but so I would have, I'd give it back in a second.
Aaron, more than anyone, understands what's in Connor's heart.
All right, so in comes in this female now, who's Aaron. Aaron understands Connor's heart. All right, that's what they're letting you know.
Aaron, you see, was Kellen's sister.
All right, Aaron is Kellen's sister. All right, so this individual wants to learn about the donor's family. He comes across the sister. The sister is falling in love with him because she could feel the energy from her brother, right? And it's kind of a cheat code. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of a cheat code. Can we say it's wrong? It's not wrong because it came from her brother, but he has the love of her brother within him, all right? And she could feel the pull from her brother and the traits from him as well in him.
It's priceless to know that a part of something you loved so much can continue on, and not just continue on in existence, but be the life force for someone else. I don't know if there's any words to describe that.
They say they fell in love almost immediately.
Instantly.
I have it vividly in my head, just looking over, feeling her mom hug me and just staring into her eyes.
All right, feeling her mom hug, staring into her eyes, instantly there was a love amongst all of them, and even coming from him. And they're going to show you they feel it's based on the heart.
To some, it's a strange love, but they had to give it a shot. When you were young and in love, you follow your heart.
All right, so to some it's strange. It's strange because her brother died and gave his heart to the recipient. She met the recipient. It wasn't a meeting like that. They just wanted to acknowledge the family, thank the family, and immediately he's feeling this love and this draw. And it's not just on him to say he's lustful, but it's with her as well, right? And I've seen sisters who've lost brothers and they've been torn up about the brother, right? And there is emotional pull there, but they would never look at their brother like that because it was nothing like that. But now when that is placed into somebody else, that changes the scenario. And this is what's transpiring with this couple.
Eric Johnson, Como 4 News.
It's an extraordinary story.
Tears.
It's an incredible story, and our thanks to Como for bringing.
All right, she in tears. The girl in tears right now, right? The woman in tears
Yeah,
right
true.
now. She in tears about the whole situation, right? So, amazing story here, all right? Amazing story here. All right, so continuing here. All right, we're just going to look at the Bible now. All right, we're in the Jewish Encyclopedia. All right, just going to give us a how they had the Old Testament looking at the Bible. All right, it's a section on the heart out of the Jewish Encyclopedia. It says the seat of emotional and intellectual. All right, let me highlight it for you. The seat of emotional and intellectual life keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. All right, Proverbs 4:23 refers to the moral and spiritual as well as the physical life. Animals have simply a sentient heart without personal consciousness or reason. This is what it's meant when it is said that a beast's heart was given to Nebuchadnezzar. All right, calls to attention the fact that the Arabic Hazma says explicitly the brute is without heart. All right, so Nebuchadnezzar, a king in the Bible, all right, it's so that God had gave him a heart of a beast. All right, and had smitten him, and he had lost all reason. All right, and personal consciousness and reason left him, and he was now like a beast. It says 3 specific functions, knowing, feeling, and willing, ascribed by modern psychologists to the mind, were attributed to the heart by biblical writers. All right, so 3 special functions, knowing, feeling, and willing, ascribed by modern psychologists to the mind, were attributed to the heart by biblical writers. In the book of Daniel, intellectual functions are described not to the head only, but also to the heart. All right. So we go to this bottom part. Excuse me. It says that the heart is the seat of emotion is generally accepted opinion of all investigators into psychology of the Bible, though Carl Grunson, all right, denies it. All right, so it's generally accepted opinion of all investigators into the psychology of the Bible. All right, that the heart is the seat of emotions. All right, all modes of feeling from the lowest physical forms as hunger, thirst, to the highest spiritual forms as reverence, remorse, are attributed by the Hebrews to the heart. So not only the ancient Egyptians, and these two cultures don't agree with each other in terms of their religion. All right, but they could agree with each other in terms of where the intelligence comes from. All right, which they agree is the heart. So once again, all modes of feeling from the lowest physical forms as hunger, thirst, to the highest spiritual forms as reverence and remorse are attributed by the Hebrews to the heart. So joy, gladness, sorrow, grief, fear, and reverence. All right. All these things. All right. So it says this in the seat of volition. All right. The heart is also the seat of volition. It is self-directing and self-determining. All conscious resolve emanate from that source. All right. When the words heart and soul are used in connection with each other, all right, example Deuteronomy 4 and 5, they are not used merely as synonym terms in order to add force to the expression. For the phrase with all your heart denotes the love of conscious resolve in which the whole being consents and must at once become a natural inclination. All right, so this is biblical theological lexicon. So they're telling you that these things, when God is speaking, love me with all your heart. All right. He's showing that he knows that this the natural inclination. All right. It's coming from the heart. It's coming from these areas. All right. Actually, just one more part here. All right. It says it is in the heart. All right. It is in the heart that the heart becomes conscious of itself and of its own operations. It recognizes its own suffering. It is the seat of self-consciousness. As a whole physical and psychical life is centralized in the heart. So the whole moral life springs and the issues out of it. All right. So that's all we give you right there. We just wanted to give you the Hebrew biblical mindset when it came to the heart. All right, so this is a perfect segue into this article here. All right, so it says this woman says she feels love differently since her heart transplant. She wants to know why. All right, so this is posted October 16, 2022. So these are new phenomena still happening. All right, so this woman says she feels love differently since her heart transplant. She wants to know why. Some researchers suggest the controversial idea that the donor organ could transfer memories to a new recipient. All right, let's see if it'll do it for us.
This woman says she feels love differently since her heart transplant.
All right, so let's see.
This woman says she feels love differently since her heart transplant. She wants to know why. Some researchers suggest the controversial idea that a donor organ could transfer memories to a new recipient. Michaela Van Kooten, CBC Radio, posted, October 16, 2022, 4 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And Marie Switzer was baptized and given her last rites at just 2 days old. She was born with a congenital heart disease called transposition of the greater vessels. Even after receiving the life-saving surgery known as the mustard procedure, she still faced many complications throughout her life. At 50 years old, she got the gift she had prayed for her entire life, a new heart. But shortly after her heart transplant, something changed, something she couldn't easily explain. I know I love my family, but I don't get that squishy feeling anymore.
All right. So she said at 50 years old, she got a gift that she prayed for her entire life, a new heart. But shortly after she got it, her heart transplant, something changed. She couldn't easily explain. What's the problem? She's saying, I know I love my family, but I don't get that squishy feeling anymore. So she used to be a family lover, love her family. She got a new heart. She doesn't love her family how she used to.
And Marie Switzer. Perhaps most importantly, Switzer says her feelings of love are no longer the same. I don't know when the first time I realized it, said Switzer, who is from Brampton, Ontario. I know I love my family, but I don't get that squishy feeling anymore.
All right, so Switzer, she's from Brampton, Ontario. All right, she says her feelings of love are no longer the same. I don't know when the first time I realized it, said Switzer, who is from Brampton, Ontario. I know I love my family, but I don't get that squishy feeling anymore.
Thoughts and memories of her loved ones used to feel warm and tingly, she said. Now, they feel logical or factual, or cold.
All right, so she said the thoughts and memories of her loved ones used to feel warm, tingly. Now they're logical, factual, cold.
I love my husband, but I don't always get Twitter-pated anymore, she added, referring to the butterflies in your stomach, love at first sight feeling described in the classic Disney film Bambi.
All right, so she says she loves her husband, but she doesn't get that Twitter-pated anymore. All right, that butterflies in your stomach feeling, even for her husband. All right, seems like this person that she had got this heart from was probably secluded from the world.
It's definitely a loss, because I'm a heart person, I'm a love person, I'm a relationship person. I don't know how many people have told me, you've got such a big heart. And I miss that, she said.
All right, so she said she's a love person, a relationship person. How much people in her life prior told her, you've got such a big heart. And when she got this transplant, the heart that she's got, it seems like it's gotten smaller.
Why don't I feel that? While seemingly rare, it's not an unheard of phenomenon. Some researchers believe it may be possible for donor organs to hold and even pass on the characteristics and experiences of its original owner onto the new recipient via a process known as cellular memory.
All right, so they're telling
Dr. Michael McDonald, a medical director.
All right, so they're telling you some researchers believe that it may be possible for donor organs to hold and even pass the characteristics and experiences of its original owner to the new recipient via a process known as cellular memory. All right.
At the Toronto General Hospital's Ejmera Heart Transplant Center, says the term typically refers to how the body develops immunity to diseases. We all have cellular memory as part of our adaptive immune responses that keeps us safe from disease, infection, and cancer and anything foreign, he said.
All right, so now instead of going with what the ancients believed, they're like, no, we have cellular memory inside of there. It's the same thing that comes from, when, our body meets pathogens and diseases and, restores that and comes back and fights against it. This is their excuse for these things. All right, just letting you know. All right, that they have to come up with some new excuse, which they never had that before. Before, they never admitted those things.
In other words, it allows our body to remember how to fight diseases we have encountered before. Transplant medicine experts, however, work to make sure that same response doesn't reject a new organ as a potentially harmful foreign object. When I'm thinking of the strictly clinical function of an organ, I'm interested in, is it doing what it's told to do by the rest of the body?
All right, so this going into the transplant person now, but just wanted to bring that story about the woman, I should say, who had a huge heart, loved her family, and now doesn't love her family. All right, we showed you numerous incidents in the States, the USA, and this is recent, right? And this is happening in Canada. All right, Toronto, Brampton. All right, so this whole North America side, these phenomenons are taking place. All right. So we're going to go to the next that we have for you. And we're almost done here.
Around the world, hundreds of organ recipients have reported disturbing experiences. France, 2005, a woman is haunted by vivid images of her donor's death in a car crash. Croatia, 2006,
All right, so where are we taking you? Across the world? France, Croatia, different instances, not just over in North America.
lumberjack develops an obsession for domestic chores after receiving a kidney from a dead housewife.
All right, so it's not just the heart. They're saying possibly other things as well. All right, kidneys, different body parts as well.
Georgia, 2007. A man given the heart of a suicide victim kills himself in exactly the same way.
A man given the heart of a suicide victim kills himself in exactly the same way, unalives himself.
Are all these cases coincidental? Or is it possible these people have acquired traits from the dead? Professor of Neurology Dr. Gary Schwartz has been researching this phenomenon for the past 50
All right, so changes in heart transplant recipients that parallel the personality of their donors. All right, that's the newspaper article he's reading himself.
15 years.
There are now enough of those cases available to justify saying this is a serious possibility.
Dr. Schwartz.
All right, there's enough cases. Wink, wink. Alarm. There's enough cases to justify bringing this all back up and questioning, what did the ancients know that we didn't know?
is the co-author of a paper that analyzes 10 real-life case histories in which transplant patients claim they have acquired personality traits from their donors. One anonymous case involves 2 young girls, an 8-year-old who receives the heart of a 10-year-old murder victim.
After the heart transplant surgery, this young girl began to have dreams. And in these dreams, she saw this girl being murdered. And the details were so specific about what the murderer looked like and details regarding the murder that this information was then passed on to the police. And it turned out that that information helped this man to be caught and ultimately prosecuted. Now, how do we explain that a young girl could be getting details about a murder that nobody knew?
All right, so a young girl is getting details about a murder that nobody knew. All right, these are the phenomena. This is a neuro doctor speaking here.
Unless she's somehow picking it up from the organ that's inside her.
Is this proof that memories can be transplanted with organs?
All right, so just showing you again. All right. So I got one more video. All right, you got one more video. All right, before we go into that, just showing you a couple more biblical phrases. All right, so we're just going to read this part right here. All right, just want to take a look at what the Bible says about it. All the phrases, a lot of people use the Bible. All right, these are biblical phrases that we all use. All right, trickle down even into regular conversation. People who don't even believe the Bible. All right, it says he will be glad in his heart. He will harden his heart. Hate thy brother in thy heart. For as he thinketh in his heart, so he is. But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart. This defiles a man. For out of the heart comes evil, thoughts, murder, adultery, fornication, theft, false witness. Today we may ask, how did I get this thought in my mind? Not once does the Bible attribute having thought, thinking, understanding, considering, mediating, or pondering as coming from the mind. Those mental processes generally are cited as coming from the heart. For example, consider in thy heart that the, understand with their heart and convert. Thy heart shall meditate terror and ponder them in her heart, perceiving the thoughts of their hearts. One example exists of thoughts coming into a person's. All right. So one example exists of thoughts coming into a person's mind. Thy thoughts came into thy mind, but the thoughts, mind association is immediately followed in the next passage by an explanation to where the mind is. All right. So it says, thy thoughts came into thy mind. The next sentence is, and thy might know the thoughts of thy heart. Right. So everything is saying is coming from the heart. Reasoning, questioning, which is a mental process that is generally associated with the brain or mind, is also clearly defined as coming from the heart. For example, and reasoning with their hearts. Why reason these things in your hearts? What reason ye in your hearts? Being wise, having wisdom, knowing or having knowledge are also normally considered as mental processes occurring in the mind or brain. But these qualities are associated in the Bible only with the heart. For example, he is wise in heart, mighty in. You shall know in all your hearts, and in all. Apply thy heart unto my knowledge. I applied my heart to know wisdom. The process of learning and acquiring knowledge and wisdom, therefore, in the Bible is an applicable primarily of the heart rather than the mind. In the one place, the Bible, right, in the one place in the Bible, the word mind is associated with the word wisdom. Here is mind, which has wisdom. Revelation 17:9. But here again, there is no clue that the writer knows where the mind is. Other dominant citations certainly imply that the mind is considered to be in the heart. All right, so just wanted to show that. All right, and we have one last thing we're going to show.
Forms of energy.
All right.
In the animal kingdom. For millennia, we have been creating stories, developing ever more advanced tools, and manipulating forms of energy, all through the usage of this single organ, which sits at the top of our body. A look into most common languages spoken today will give us an insight into how previous generations viewed the relationship between our cognitive abilities and emotions and the brain, or rather, how will give us an insight into energy, all through the usage of this single organ, which sits at the top of our body. A look into most common languages spoken today will give us an insight into how previous generations viewed the relationship between our cognitive abilities and emotions and the brain, or rather, how they did not see a relationship. Words like heartfelt and expressions such as learn by heart indicate how early civilizations mostly view the heart as the main focus of all things associated with the brain nowadays. These examples may be limited, but through simple research, we can observe how emotions, reasoning, senses, and many more functions now associated with the brain were, in prehistoric times, seen as an obvious creation of the heart.
All right, so even in this video, they're going to show you that all the ancients seen that these things were obvious creations of the heart.
From the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the earliest forms of story and myth creation known to historians, to the Vedic Sanskrit hymns, one of the four sacred canonical Hindu texts, and even the Torah or the Bible's Old Testament.
All right, so Sumerian, Hindu texts, Bible, New Testament, they're going to all the cultures.
All signs, and by signs I mean stories, point to the idea that the heart, and not the brain, generates thoughts and emotions.
All right, all the ancients believed these same things. All the ancient cultures thought that the heart and not the brain.
Many more examples of this can be found in other civilizations as well, such as the Maya and Aztecs. And, according to Cobb, most people native to America believe the same thing. Not just in America and the Mediterranean, but in Asia too, the general belief seems to have been that the heart ruled the body through its control over the five senses, emotions, and cognition in general. In Egypt too.
All right, so just wanted to show that all these places, all right, actually, you know what, we'll share this last Egypt one.
The Shabaka stone is evidence of this belief. The one exception to this trend seems to be that of the Australian Aborigines, which did not seem to share this belief. As such, due to this prehistoric preconception.
All right, so the only people who did not share this belief that they're saying is the Aboriginal Australians. That's the only individuals who never had this. All right, so just show you one more article and we're wrapping it up. All right, so it says the heart memory insights doctor rarely share about a heart transplant. All right, heart memory insights doctors rarely share about a heart transplant. All right, where do memories in our body live? All right, this is Professor Christian Bernard, heart transplant pioneer, and his wife. All right, that's who's there. All right, it says, where do our memories reside? All right, where do our memories reside? In the brain or in every cell of our body? The latter seems to be the case if we consider experiences of people who have had heart transplants tell us. We often refer to our heart when we talk about our emotions and are frequently mocked for mistaking the heart for the brain. But are we wrong to connect emotions with the heart instead of the brain? All right. It says cellular memory is an emerging field of science, and evidence suggests that the heart possesses some of the capabilities traditionally attributed to the brain. Perhaps it is time to consider the heart's role in our emotions and intellect, challenging the traditional dominance of the brain. They keep using these words of challenging the traditional dominance. That's not traditional. It's traditional in a modern sense. But when you think of tradition, traditions are old. And this is not old. This is new. All right, it says, once again, the human heart has a complex neural network. Recent research reveals that memories and emotions are stored there, though not as extensively as in the brain. When a heart is transplanted, the recipients often report experiencing new feelings and memories that correlate with those of the donors. A 2024 study acknowledges the heart transplantation and related experiences have revealed many phenomena involving memories, emotions, personal tastes, personalities that challenge our traditional. Keep saying this thing. They keep trying to keep bringing this traditional. Everywhere we go and we're reading these articles, they keep using traditional. And that's not traditional. This is new. What's traditional is the heart was always the seat and center of emotions, which is where we're getting at. All right, so we're going to continue here. It says, after heart transplant, a few case studies of heart memory. It says, after heart transplant, the neural network of the heart forms a connection with the brain and begins communicating with it. This neural network is sometimes named heart brain. This heart brain changes the personal memories and identity of the organ recipient in many subtle ways by adding to them the feelings, personality traits, and memories of the donor stored in it. Amazingly, the recipients sometimes begin to like a specific food item that they despise before the surgery. Sometimes they find their sexual orientation change. Here are a few case studies cited in the 2024 study undertaken by Al Johan et al. And published in Curious. All right, so we're going to look at some of these case studies. A 29-year-old woman, voracious consumer of meat-based fast food, received a heart from a 19-year-old teenager, a vegetarian. After the surgery, she began to feel an aversion towards non-vegetarian food. All right, it says in another case, the donor, right, was a 14-year-old with irregular eating habits. The 47-year-old recipient began to experience nausea and vomiting sensation after eating. All right, so the 14-year-old donor had irregular eating habits, and now the older person is experiencing nausea and vomiting sensation after eating. All right, the donor was fond of chicken, nuggets, and green peppers. The recipient developed craving for these two food items after the transplant. A 45-year-old recipient suddenly began to like loud music after receiving a heart transplant from a younger person. A musician's heart was transplanted into a teenage girl. After surgery, she developed a new love for music. The heart of a young African American who loved classical music was transplanted into a 45-year-old man. The recipient found out that he had a newfound love for classical music. A male recipient received a heart from a lesbian artist. He began to feel an enhanced sexual attraction towards women. All right, so he felt double attracted now. A lesbian, on the other hand, after receiving a heart from a heterosexual donor, was more attracted to men. A 9-year-old boy began to experience the sadness and fear of a 3-year-old donor who had many negative experiences in his life. A boy receiving a heart from another boy knew the donor's name without anyone telling him. All right, it says case studies of the heart memory abound in transplant history, yet neither scholars nor doctors are comfortable talking about this phenomena because it will lead to complex questions about mind and consciousness, which are not easy to answer. All right, so when things are not easy to answer, people don't like those questions being brought up and put on the table for discussion. And that's pride, because you don't know. That's pride. Let us not be prideful in relearning. This is what this channel is all about. Relearning, reanalyzing. Not to say you have to think in that way, but you need to reanalyze that thought. Because a lot of these thoughts were programmed into us from young. And now that we're older and wiser, we need to relook at and possibly even reshape how we see the world in our eyes and in our minds and in our heart. All right, so we'll continue. It says, our understanding about the heart is changing. It says, if the heart can be the place of origin for emotions, the heart can certainly store information. All stirring emotions are first felt by us where our heart is located. There must be a reason for this. The experiences of organ transplanted patients gave rare insights into the mini brain throbbing inside our hearts. Scientists gradually gathered the courage to talk and think about the heart as a place of thought and emotions. It says, one must always remember that as our knowledge horizon expands, so the domains of wisdom that defy our understanding. It is always one step forward and two steps backwards. Will questions that elude our brain all this time be answered by our heart? Will questions that elude our brain all this time be answered by our heart? Isn't an intelligent heart amazing? First, the medical world carefully trod from closed heart surgeries to open heart surgeries, and then the real revolution, the heart transplant came. So all these things are new. The heart transplant came. All right, in 1967, Christian Bernard, one of the world's second generation cardiac surgeons, carried out the first heart transplant in the world, 1967. So they've been lying for a lot of time. And now with this heart transplant, this is when the phenomenon started to happen. All right, one overlooked question about the organ transplants is what happens. All right, so let's go back. In 1967, Christian Bernard, one of the world's second generation cardiac surgeons, carried out the first heart transplant in the world. One overlooked question about the organ transplant is what happens to the gene and the DNA of the transplanted organ? Does the new organ lose its genes and DNA residing inside its cells and gradually acquire the DNA and genes of the recipient? Or does the implanted organ remain like an isolated generic island inside the body that received it? We now know that the latter is the case. The transplanted organ always remains an alien in the body that carries it. This is why a transplant recipient has to take medicines lifelong to prevent the body from rejecting the organ. So a person who receives a transplant has to take medicine lifelong to prevent the body from rejecting the organ. All right, as Thomas Verney reminds us in his book, The Embodied Mind, genes are the ultimate proof that everything is connected. Even when staying a stranger to the recipient of the body, the transplanted organ has cells that learn to connect with their surrounding fellow cells. So they're showing you that these things, even when it's disconnected from the person's body, it knows that that's the person's body. Right. And when it goes into the new person's body, your body is fighting and it has a memory and it knows that this is not from your body. So it's fighting against it. And this medicine that you have to take is to reprogram it to not do so. It says when we study more, we realize that the memory is a maze, all pervasive, and consists everywhere in our body. All right. And this is their excuse that they keep coming with. Is the memory is everywhere in the body. The Bible, everything that we read said it's in the heart. All right. And this is why we do this here, to re-challenge the mind, which we can now say, hey, is it possibly the heart? Re-challenge your mind, which is at the center of you. There's an importance to why diet is integral into your thought pattern. Discipline as well in controlling the stomach. Because these are where these habits, these disciplines, these thoughts initially are arising from, and then connecting with the rest of our body. All right, we got one more video and we out of here. All right, and this one's an interesting one.
Heart intelligence. We never, I think, really talked about it as much as I wanted to. And it's something that I think you
justice to in the few minutes that we have here. But 1991, scientists made a discovery, headway, that really opened the door to this conversation. They discovered every human heart, approximately 40,000 or so specialized cells configured in a way that creates a neural network in the heart. They're brain-like cells, but they're not in the brain.
All right, so they're telling you that they figured out there's like 40,000 of these cells that are brain-like cells, but they're not in the brain. They're in the heart.
And they're in the heart. And it's actually called the little brain in the heart.
All right, so they actually call it the little brain in the heart.
And these 40,000 specialized cells are called sensory neurites. What they found, what the scientists discovered, is that these cells think independently of the cranial brain. They feel and they remember.
All right, so they're telling you that these cells think independently. They feel and they remember independently from the brain, and they're located in your heart. All ancient civilizations taught solely that the heart was the center of these things. Modern scientists, modern technology came out with a different result. Same, and we're not getting to it, but same thing as the spherical earth and all of this. And now we're seeing that with this technology, which was inevitable because we want to help mankind. We're trained to help, especially when diseases and help and surgeries, it's a lot of money. So by default, they end up helping. These transplants start happening, and it starts exposing the initial lie that was there. And the phenomena start to occur.
Independently of the cranial brain. And what that means, Brian, is every experience that we have, even this one right now, I'm registering this experience in two places. This is a good experience, so it's not a problem. I'm registering it in my mind, in my cranial mind, as well as in my heart. But if we were having a trauma, it would still be registered in both places. And if I tried to heal that trauma only through thinking about it or talking about from my mind, it might feel incomplete, the healing.
All right, so they're telling you if you're only thinking about it from your mind, it might feel incomplete because it's still inside of your heart. And a lot of people are doing that today. All right, a lot of people are doing that today. Where they're thinking with their mind and they're sorry in their mind, but they've yet to go deep down into the real mind, which is the heart, and to clean that part out. So in their mind, they're like, yeah, I've gotten over it. But soon as something triggers it, and this is what the Bible said, what proceeds from out of the mouth, inside of you, out of the stomach, defiles you. All right, and that hidden thing that was there, now it comes up because it was always there. All right, we never guarded there, we're guarding up here. You didn't clear out here. And now when something transpires, that's why they say don't bring it up. They don't say don't bring it down. No, don't bring it down from your mind to reality. No, you bringing it up because it's coming from deep within.
May feel incomplete. And the reason is because I've only addressed what happened in here. I haven't addressed what happened in here. And we know this intuitively because people all the time, they point. I did an experiment a few years ago. Every culture I went to, and every age group, I asked little kids, I said, where are you sitting right now? Show me where you're sitting. And people say, I'm sitting right here. right here. I don't want to hit my mic, but they say, right here. Or you ask the indigenous people, you know, where do you live? Well, this is my home. And almost instinctively, we know that the heart is the seat of our existence. The seat.
Right, so he's telling you, if you ask anybody, any cultures, he went around and asked, hey, where are you? Where are you at now? Where are you located at? Meaning your soul, you yourself in the body. Everyone goes here. They don't go here. All right, it's those cartoons and things that show you here. Right, they show you, oh, a little, you know, little cartoon guy working in the brain, and like, oh, he's in, right, the person's up there, right? But us, and our intuitions and our inclinations lead us to the heart
of our being. You don't see them hitting their head, you know, or their arm or something else. So we know that. So when we talk about heart intelligence, what we're talking.
So just once again, we know that. We know that when we ask ourselves, when you point, I'm here. Centered. You being centered goes back to the heart. All right, so once again, if you didn't know, now you know to rethink, relook. All the ancient cultures thought this way in regards to the heart being the seat of intelligence, emotions, feelings, taste, your thoughts. Not the brain. Not saying the brain has nothing to do with anything, but it's not the center of all of that. It's not the seat of all of that. It's not the chief of all of that. That is your heart. Guard your hearts. Protect your hearts. Study your heart. And don't forget your heart. This is the Victims of Miseducation podcast. We're here with another one. Do not be miseducation. Understand life. We are all victims of miseducation. It's no shame in relearning, in rethinking, in questioning. There's no stupid question, just stupid answers.